In a year of momentous happenings, 1975 was a year of assassination attempts, Soviet inconsistencies, and the deaths of some of the world's leading figures. Although he had never won a national election, Nixon's successor as president, Gerald Ford, was a man of the people, preferring to meet and greet the crowds that gathered whenever he arrived for presidential appearances. When President Ford made a September visit to Sacramento, California, he kept to his habit of shaking hands with the gathered crowd. That was until a robed woman in the crowd attempted to fire a handgun at Ford. The assailant was later identified as Lynette "Squeaky" Fromm, a follower of Charles Manson. As Fromm pulled the trigger, Secret Service agent Larry Buendorfer grabbed the gun and prevented it from firing. Fromm was immediately taken into custody. She was later convicted of attempted assassination of the president and was sentenced to life in prison. The Secret Service, in reaction to this attempt, started to keep Ford at a more secure distance from anonymous crowds, a strategy that may have saved his life 17 days later. As he left a hotel in downtown San Francisco, Sarah Jane Moore, standing in a crowd of onlookers across the street, pointed a pistol at him. Just before she fired, former Marine Oliver Sipple grabbed at the gun and deflected her shot. The president ducked instinctively when the shot rang out, and he looked shaken as bodyguards bundled him into the bulletproof car a few steps away and whisked him to the airport. The president vowed that he will not cower before anarchists and assassins, and maintained that he would not change his meet the people style of campaigning. In the Soviet Union, the Kremlin tried hard to divert attention away from the looming problems of human rights issues, including the lack of political and religious freedoms. In what could have been just a giant publicity stunt, the Soviet Soyuz team staged dramatic space missions and managed to dock with the US Apollo craft for 2 days of experimentation. Back on Earth, the situation was not quite so rosy when leading Russian scientist Andrei Sakharov was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Soviet authorities not only refused to let him go to the ceremony, but later stripped him of the honors. Languishing in Italy at the time, Sakharov's wife Yelena, fearing the realities of the communist regime, expressed concern that she had been unable to telephone her husband for 2 days. Among the momentous happenings of 1975 were the loss of some of the world's leaders. To the Rastafarian movement, he was considered to be the religious symbol of God incarnate. When the Ethiopian Emperor Haile Selassie died in August 1975, he had been known as the King of Kings and the Lion of Judah in his homeland. During his reign, he had claimed direct descent from Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. Haile Selassie was known as a uniting figure both inside Ethiopia and across Africa. A gifted orator, some of Selassie's speeches were counted amongst the most memorable of the 20th century. When reggae great Bob Marley wrote his song War using the words of one of Selassie's speeches, the sentiments of the emperor's dream for equality and peace in Africa were given a wide audience in popular culture. 1975 was also a year of momentous happenings for Spain. After 40 years of tyranny, the Spanish dictator General Francisco Franco died following a sickbed ordeal lasting more than a month. Not all Spanish people mourned Franco's death. In France, thousands of Spanish Basques danced in the streets and drank toasts of champagne. About 500,000 refugees had settled in France at the end of the Spanish Civil War in 1939. When Aristotle Onassis, one of the richest shipping magnates of the 20th century, died in March of 1975, it was the final chapter in a life that had been lived to the full. Leaving millions to be squabbled over, and a widow who had been married to an assassinated American president, the Greek tycoon's life ended in a Paris hospital. 1975, a year that also saw the birth of future British chef and television personality Jamie Oliver, was truly a year of momentous happenings.